Hello and welcome to the Post to Post podcast. It is podcast number 44, I believe, and we are coming to you today on a Sunday. Hopefully, if I get this edited in time, we're filming on a Saturday morning because we have some special guests coming, and you'll find out who those are in the upcoming weeks and some videos and some maybe other podcasts and some stuff. So I'll leave it a surprise for now, but we're trying to get this filmed early and. Because it's Canada Day weekend, it's free agency tomorrow. There's just a lot going on, so we wanted to film it now and get it out of the way. And I'm just going to let you guys know. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Technical difficulties. Okay, there. So we are going to finish where we left off last podcast, where I was talking about my trip and going through the pictures. But we're not going to do that right away. We have some other things to discuss, some hockey-related things. So we're going to do some hockey stuff. We're going to do the rest of my trip, and then we're going to talk about the trip that you were on around the same time that I was on my trip.
Exactly.
So first, actually, I want to talk about our second channel, More Post to Post, because that's been more active recently than our main channel. We're really trying to grow that second channel. So if you're not subscribed, I encourage you to go over and check it out. Hit the subscribe button. We've got videos on football, soccer, baseball, trivia, U.S. state flags. We recently did rank the U.S. state flags. We did the FIFA World Cup jerseys, home and away, ranked. And we did the MLB ballparks recently.
And that's got a lot of great views so far.
And, of course, the Vegas vlogs that I've been releasing as well. So if you're not subscribed over there, it would really mean a lot to me if you could go over and hit the subscribe button. We're really trying to grow that channel, and any support helps a lot. Now, to the hockey. Did you hear about Drew Doughty? Bad time to ask you a question when you're taking a drink.
I heard that LA was going to re-sign him.
Yeah, it looks like 8 years at $11 million average per year. That's a lot of money.
8 years at $11 million?
That's a lot of money.
He is making off like a bandit with that kind of money because he's got some liabilities.
It's 2 years, not 2 years, $2 million more than PK Subban, I believe. And I think it's obviously going to be a very front-loaded contract as far as what he gets paid per year. I mean, the average is the average, but as far as what he actually gets paid, it's going to be a front-loaded contract. So he's probably going to get like between $17 and $20 million his first couple of years, and then likely 6 to 8 his last couple on the contract. So
wow, it's
a big deal. They had to pay him that much to keep him because he was, I think, considering going elsewhere at one point, but it's a lot of money. I personally would not have paid $11 million to keep Drew Doughty, but
I wouldn't have paid more than 6.
6?
Yeah.
I think that's a little.
No.
I think that's offensive.
Well, I think his play in the last round of the playoffs that he was in against Vegas was offensive.
I think 8 would be the minimum. I'd probably give him 9.
Yeah.
But
LA's getting hosed there, but all right.
Yeah, you think he would have taken a little less to help the team, but whatever. He wants to get paid, so that's fine. I mean, he's a good player, obviously. I like Drew Doughty. John Tavares, what do you think about this whole situation? Now, by the time that people listen to this will have resolved itself, and he would have made his decision. He might have already made it by the time I'm filming this.
But for him and his agent to go to a hotel and essentially receive visitors like the Pope or the Queen, and they come begging on their hands and knees, and when they go out of the room, they have to back up because they don't want to turn their back on the great John Tavares. I think it's a bit of a pony show, but it's not his fault. The media is all over this. They're following this. They've got camera crews parked outside watching people get out of cars and going in and out. It's like the red carpet at the Olympics or the Oscars or the Grammys. It's just a little crazy. There's nothing else to do, so here they are watching the Tavares show.
It's a little Hollywood. It's
just a little.
I understand that he's the most attractive free agent coming up, and I understand that he is a generational player. He is the best player on the Islanders. I understand the want and desire to get a player like that on your team, but I think it's a little over the top. He's a good player. I don't think he's that good. I think this whole hype around him is a little overrated, to be honest, in my opinion. I don't find it that exciting, and I probably should because I cover this stuff, I talk about this stuff, but I'm just kind of sick of it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was supposed to release his decision like 2 days ago, and then he was supposed to release it yesterday at noon, and then he didn't do it, and everyone was freaking out. And then he didn't do it by the end of last night, and he said he wasn't gonna make a decision by the end of the night, and then people were all upset. Like just I'm not even thinking about it. Like I'll find out the news when he releases the news or when it comes out on my phone, and that'll be that, and then I can talk about it.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't necessarily like to theorize where he's going to go and for what, and I don't know. So
the sports media is becoming a lot like the news media. News media, for instance, in an election, the news media doesn't cover what people are actually saying about what they would do. It doesn't cover their policies, doesn't cover their announcements. It doesn't cover their approach to government generally if they were ever in power. It covers the race. Who's ahead in the polls?
Yeah.
Who's this? Who's that? It nothing to do with the substance. And same thing with this Tavares business. It's not about the substance of the marketing and the market. It's all about who's going in the room and who's coming out and who's got the best deal for him and where he might go. And to follow this right now when nobody knows, it's all speculation, just like the polls are always speculation. Nobody knows. So I guess the media is going to be there to cover it. I'm not, even although I'm a hockey media luminary. I'm not obligated to follow it, and I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not
following it really either, mainly because I don't have time, but the other point is I just really don't care that much. I'm going to ask you the question that I probably don't even care about the answer for, but where do you think, I'm just trying to put it out there because I know people want to know, and people will comment if I don't ask it. Where do you think he'll go, and where do you want him to go?
I of the teams that he will talk to.
Because there's San Jose, Tampa, Vegas, Toronto, Islanders, and Dallas, I think, are the 6 teams.
Yeah, of the teams that he will talk to, I would like to see him go back to the Islanders, and I think he will go back to the Islanders.
I agree.
Yeah, I think the Islanders bringing in Barry Trotz are showing him and the marketplace in New York that they're serious. They've got a new arena down the road. They've got a great fan base. They've got a fantastic historical franchise. And that's where, if I were John Tavares, all other things being equal, I'm sure they can money match what everyone else is going to be offering. And I wouldn't have to have the highest bidder either. He made his life in New York. He should end his career in New York with at least 1 or 2 Stanley Cups. And if he stays, I think he can do it.
I think you're right. I get the appeal of going somewhere else and seeing new things and trying new stuff, but I hope he stays in the island. But I really don't care that much.
I really don't either. And hockey has been less of a free agent, move here, move there for the money kind of sport, but it is still that sport. We had, near the end, Wayne Gretzky hopping around or being traded or free agenting himself to St. Louis and then to New York. I like loyalty. I really like loyalty. I like the idea of a player staying with the team for his entire career.
Like Shane Doan,
like Alex Ovechkin, like Carey Price, as it's probably going to turn out. I like that idea, where a team drafts a player, grows a player, keeps a player, and wins with the player. That's the part we haven't seen with Carey Price.
I'll ask you the question again in 5 years about Carey Price. See how you feel about loyalty. All right, good answer. Next, I'd like to talk about the drama from Ottawa. Have you heard anything about this?
Well, I know the drama from a couple of weeks ago with Carlson and Hoffman's spouses.
No, like the new drama.
The new drama where the assistant coach is under charges in Buffalo?
More drama after that.
Okay. Fill me in.
So they're trying to secure a new loan or something like that to pay back old debt. Or I don't know the whole story. I honestly didn't read the entire article, and I probably should have. But basically, Melnick's saying that, or someone said that Melnick said that he's trying to sell the team, or he met with someone or something. But then the other people who own the loan or have to do with Melnick or working with Melnick, I don't even know. They said that they're not selling the team. They're not even willing to hear negotiations or offers about the team. That's how much they're not selling the team. So there's conflicting reports coming out of Ottawa of
is that right?
What's actually going to happen with the team. And also they have the new arena. I think they're trying to build a new arena downtown, right?
They are. Yeah.
What's the location called? Do you remember? Is it something Flats?
Yes, it's a LeBreton Flats.
LeBreton Flats, yeah. So, I mean, there's that. There's like honestly feel terrible. I'm a Canadiens fan. Things are not good for Canadiens fans right now.
No.
Or the Montreal Canadiens. I feel worse for Ottawa fans because of all the drama that's come out of that team in the past 12 months, basically, or 13 months after they got eliminated. It's been tough to be an Ottawa Senators fan. So hopefully they get that figured out soon. I know you're reading now.
I am reading up in the story. They've got $135 million in new financing.
Yeah. And some of that's to pay back old debt. So like it's just...
If Ottawa can't get down to the downtown very soon and get it done, they just go. Just go. Just sell the team. Sell it to Quebec market. Become the Nordiques. Go to Quebec City. You're staying in the same division, in the same conference. Quebec wants a team. Ottawa was a bad business model from the beginning, being way out there in Canada. And I'm being a little bit cranky right now, but I agree with you. Ottawa fans deserve way better than this, and I would say just go.
Wait, that doesn't make... So Ottawa fans deserve better, so you want to take the team away from them?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's not supposed to. It's not like I'm getting paid here. Come on. No, but what I mean to say is, what I'm trying to say is Ottawa fans deserve better than what they've got.
I agree.
And to continue to be Ottawa fans, they're going to have to endure years and years more of this before they have any solution to it. So I'd be just, boom, get rid of the team down to Quebec City, build in LeBreton Flats, get a nice arena, and then get a team.
How would you feel about the team combining to two cities? If you had half the games in Ottawa and half the home games in Quebec City, and naming the team the whatever Senators. I don't know. You couldn't call it the Ottawa Quebec Senators. I guess you could get a little bit, but...
Well, you could call them the Ottawa Nationals or the Ottawa Quebec Nationals. Quebec is the capital, or Quebec City is the capital of Quebec Province.
Yes.
And the legislature in Quebec City is called the National Assembly. It's not called the legislature or province house or provincial parliament. It's the National Assembly, even though it's a province. Quebec considers itself, many people consider themselves to be a nation unto themselves. So if you call them the Nationals, I don't know. I think it's an idea that wouldn't work business-wise, but I'm not opposed to it on a moral...
I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think it would.
Is Quebec City the capital of Quebec?
Yes,
Did you just say that?
Yep.
And Ottawa's the capital of Canada.
Okay, yeah.
What if you called them the capital Senators?
Or, yeah.
It gets a little complicated with the Washington Capitals, but...
Call them the National Capitals.
Anyway, it's just a thought to combine the two markets, to save Ottawa, to give Quebec some life. It would be complicated a little bit, but
very.
At least they're close geographically. They're, what, three hours drive apart?
No, on a really, really good day.
On a good day.
More like 5, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, Ottawa to Montreal is an hour and a half or 2, and then Montreal to Quebec City is 3 or 4.
I didn't realize it was that far away.
Yeah.
Anyway, that got a little off topic, but a good conversation, I think. The trade this week, did you hear about that? I guess there was a few trades, but the biggest trade was the Sherry and Hunwick.
No.
So Connor Sherry from Pittsburgh and Hunwick were traded away from Pittsburgh to Buffalo.
Okay.
For a 4th-round conditional pick.
Conditional pick?
Yeah.
Conditional on what? When you're trading a conditional pick from Buffalo, what does that mean?
I don't know the condition. I didn't read it because this is just a salary dump for Pittsburgh.
Sure.
I understand it.
Yeah.
I think Pittsburgh fans, they understand the decision, but I think some are a little upset because Connor Sherry is a good player. You think you could get a little bit more for him if they had traded him at the trade deadline. The return would have been way bigger than a 4th-round conditional pick.
Yeah.
But
he's got 2 years left on his contract, $3 million per. So it's a great deal for Buffalo. They're getting a really good player who's coming in at a really good rate right now.
Yeah.
So it'll be...
Things are looking up in Buffalo.
They really are.
If they can get whoever they decide to be their goaltender next year, I mean, you've got Eichel, Ristolainen, Dahlin. If you keep O'Reilly and Sherry, there's others that I'm forgetting. I mean, Buffalo's a team that on paper should be way better than they are, even last year.
They really should. And they've got gobs of cap space left.
Yeah.
You know, like Ryan O'Reilly is making $7.5 million AAV for the next multiple years. And Eichel is making $10 million forever. And they still have all kinds of cap room.
Yeah.
Even with Sherry on the team now and all that. Yeah. No, you're right.
I really do hope success for Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
They're a team that I've enjoyed watching, even though they're not that great. I really like underdog stories. So eventually, it will come time for Buffalo to do well.
Mm-hmm.
And they will, and they'll create new fans, and they'll go on that process that some teams do. So it's going to be exciting. I'm excited for Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's all I have for hockey news. Do you have anything else you want to add? Any questions?
Not really. I'm looking forward to free agent frenzy, I guess they call it, although lately it's not really been much of a frenzy. So that's tomorrow. It's a weird thing for Canadians because it's a holiday.
Yeah.
It's a national holiday called Canada Day. The good news is, if you want to, you can sit home and turn on the sports channel all day long and watch 3 or 4 fat guys talk about who signed with who. But
You're allowed to say that because
finish the sentence.
you share the same.
I'm rather thick myself. But it's usually the first or one of the first really great weekends for weather. You want to be out. You want to be at the campground. You want to be at the beach. So it's hard to follow the hockey scene on a very important day and still do your family and national duties at the same time. So I'm not crazy about the fact it's on July 1st.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Mm-hmm.
But it's tough to split it. There's been Canada days where I've done nothing and concentrated on hockey, and others that I've completely ignored free agency day and done a lot of events and activities and stuff. So.
And I will walk back on one thing I said a while ago. I said Canada Day, and I try to avoid saying Canada Day because I refer to it as Dominion Day.
Dominion Day.
Dominion Day. From I was a kid up until probably into the 70s or even 80s, it was called Dominion Day. That was the name of the holiday. And then some jackass decided that it should be Canada Day. Like, is there any dispute or doubt about where we are?
I like it.
You like Canada Day?
Yeah, I don't like Dominion Day because remember on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the group of aliens from the other side of the wormhole were called the Dominion, and they tried to attack.
Well, I instantly like them now.
I think it's a bad thing.
You know the official name of this country? The Dominion of Canada.
I don't like it.
Well, tough. You were born into it.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. You ready for
I suppose.
the continuation of my trip to Vegas?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the last time we left off, I was in or around Payson, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just about to leave for my drive from Payson area to Kanab. And so we decided that we would... I was already in Kanab at that point. We already done that. Sorry. My drive from Kanab to Salt Lake City.
Okay.
So it was a long drive, and we did a bunch of stuff on the way. And by we, I'm talking about myself and Luke. And so I have some pictures here. The first picture that you're going to see is us going into Zion National Park, I think it's called.
Okay.
And it was absolutely beautiful. The rocks and the formations and the height of these mountains and stuff, it was just breathtaking. However, there was so much traffic. This is early in the morning. This is probably, I think, around 8. There's so much traffic, and there's so little parking that we couldn't find anywhere to safely park along the side of the road and actually get out until we were at the other end of the park. So it was really frustrating. It was a beautiful drive, but a frustrating drive because we wanted to pull over and, take pictures and stuff. But so next picture you can see is just driving along awesome mountains in the background. And there's some pretty interesting kind of switchback roads that you had to go down. That was fun. That was a fun process.
Mm-hmm.
And we just kept driving along. As you can see, there's
just beautiful.
There's rocks along the road, so you can't really pull over. It was frustrating. And we got to the parking lot, walked around for a bit, and you'll see more of that specific park in the vlog when it eventually releases.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take a lot of pictures, mainly because I was driving.
Mm-hmm.
So the next picture you'll see was when we continued on to Bryce Canyon. And that's another I think it's a national park. And we drove through it. We drove all the way up, kind of to near the top, and we decided to, get out. And we luckily found parking and walk around. So this is Bryce Point. The elevation's 8,300 feet. And the next picture here, there's some really interesting landscape. You can see in the distance there's some normal trees, and closer to us there's some pretty cool rock formations. And this dead tree, I just found this tree fascinating, because to the right of it is a normal tree, and to the left is like what happened to this tree? And it looks cool. So I took a few pictures of it. The next picture you can see just more of the background in contrast with the tree.
Just beautiful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the next one is a panoramic I took with my phone, and this is way to the left of where the previous picture was, and you can see all the interesting rock formations down there. It kind of looks. Have you been to the Badlands in Alberta?
No. I've flown over them and seen them from above, but
yeah,
not
it's a
been there.
little bit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see this lady to the right. She's loving it. She's speechless.
That's a lady?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
The next picture is from my good camera. There's phone pictures and good pictures mixed in. Mm-hmm. But we kind of hiked up here and walked and for a little bit and took some pictures. The next one is, again, there's these dead kind of tree things I found so interesting. I'm not sure if they're getting hit by lightning or what, or just dying like naturally and is super old, so
it wasn't petrified. It wasn't made of rock. It was wood.
Yeah, it was wood.
Yeah. Okay.
So next picture is just the same general area, but if you look way off to the left, it's going to be hard to see. Mm-hmm. You can see a smoke plume coming up.
I can.
That's a forest fire.
Oh, wow.
Next picture is just those rock formations, a little bit more zoomed in.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look way down below, you can't see it, but below there is an actual walking and hiking trail. You can go down at the bottom and kind of look up at them, but something I'd like to do in the future. The next picture is just another panoramic with my phone. You can really see how vast this area is. And the next picture is actually a completely different area. This is up higher, near the highest point you can drive to. I think is 11,000 something.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
You're up that high.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see the plume a little better now.
Exactly. You can see the plume better. And the temperature change was unbelievable, from 8,000 to 11,000, like significant.
I bet.
So this was really cool. I'd love to spend more time in this specific area. Mm-hmm. The next picture, I think we're coming back down the hill at this point. There's places to stop. Again, just some cool rock formations. Yeah. And then the next picture, if you look to your left, you can see this like little tower that comes up. I think that's so cool. It was huge compared to all the other ones. Mm-hmm. So we spent some time there. I actually see a face in it. Do you see the face? Look, it's a face side on, and he's looking to his left, our right.
Okay, yeah, got it. Got it. He's got quite a schnoz on him.
He does, yeah. Okay, so the next picture.
Oh, wow.
This is called, I don't know, it's something bridge. I can't remember the exact name of it. But this was awesome. I kind of wanted to hike down through there. I don't think you were allowed, but I wanted to. But that was cool. And then the next picture, this was the drive out. You had to drive through this overhanging.
So this is naturally made, and they put a road through it?
This rock it's kind of like what we just saw. Mm-hmm. The other hole was natural, but they put this one in this specific. Okay. So, and then the next picture, we stopped at a store, and I thought that hot sauce was interesting. So, and then the next picture is the drive from Bryce Canyon National Park up to Salt Lake. This was the landscape really, really changed as you got closer to Salt Lake City up in northern Utah. Mm-hmm. And it was a beautiful drive. I would 100% do it again. And then the final picture for this day, which is May 25th, by the way, I forgot to mention that. The final picture is of Salt Lake City. So we were there seeing Luke's sister and spending a few days there. So her house is just to the left down there, and we kind of drove back to the left and up the hill and then walked to this trail out to the, I think it's called like H Rock, or I can't remember exactly, but this is overlooking Salt Lake City. So Salt Lake City's off to, in the distance there in the middle, and off to the right you'll see kind of a Capitol building, a little bit. I think that's their main Capitol building or whatever they want to call it, but it was a beautiful spot.
Is it maybe, it's not the temple, maybe?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. That's just above that.
All right. Very good.
Or sorry, just below the Capitol building. Okay, May 26th, there's only 2 pictures here from this day. The first one is a place called Shields. This is a big sporting store. And I took this picture for you because if you look inside in the middle, what do you see?
I'm zooming in here. I see a float plane.
You do.
Hanging from the ceiling.
Can you tell what type of plane? You had to pick the loudest most to use.
I did. Well, it's a high wing rotary engine by the look of things. I'd say it's an Otter.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I thought it was a Piper Cub, but
no, I think it's bigger than that, but maybe not. It looks almost like a rotary engine at the front, which would be pretty rare in a small plane, but
it looks cool though. It was awesome to see that.
Very neat.
Next picture. So we had just gotten out of a movie at this point.
Wow.
And it was pouring rain. And it's so much so that the entire like downtown started to flood like within a couple of hours. And if you look, there's a manhole being uncovered by the water. Can you see that in the photo?
Oh yeah, and it's up.
So that was kind of like hovering with the water. Is that much water coming up out of the manhole?
Wow.
And we were watching vehicles drive over this thing. And I think a screenshot from a video.
Mm-hmm.
To the left of the vehicle was the front end of someone's car had fallen off. A Chevy Malibu drove right in the hole and over that.
Oh.
And people were flying down this hill, and you can see in the distance that car going through there.
Yeah. That probably should be called a person hole now. These days.
Yeah, these days.
Just so we're politically correct.
I guess.
Yeah.
So that's it from that day. We just kind of relaxed basically for this weekend. So May 27th, this is his sister's place. I'm not actually sure if I'm supposed to show this photo, but I'm going to show it. This is her record wall.
Wow.
And I thought that you would appreciate this because you used to be a radio DJ back in the day. I don't think you used records in the. Did you?
Sure did.
Did you?
Oh yeah, not albums so much. We used like 45s, singles. Yeah.
So
the occasional album.
This was so inspirational for me. I would love to have something like this in my home eventually someday. But she's got some good ones on there. She's got some Pink Floyd, some Led Zeppelin, Eminem, which won't mean anything to you, but
yes, it will. I ain't no non-Slim Shady.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, the next picture, we decided to go visit the Bonneville Salt Flats.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
this is what I mistakenly thought was in California, but you corrected me and you were right.
Yeah.
What did you think of this place?
Unbelievable.
Really, eh?
I probably could have spent half a day there, or maybe an entire day. It was really cool. So it actually doesn't completely dry out until the summertime. I think like August maybe, and that's when they do the racing. Right now there's still a layer of water over it.
Okay.
So we're driving out to it at this point. You can't. There's no water at this point. But the next picture is when we actually get there, and I'm walking out into it. And I chose this photo first because I want you to see how much water there is, and there's not much. It's just a little bit.
Looks like 2 inches or 3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's that much water for miles and miles and miles
really?
and miles. So the next picture you see is a panoramic of where I was standing, and you can see mountains in the background. I mean, the reflection is
perfect.
It's
a mirror.
It's a mirror. It's insane. You can see people way off to the left walking, and in the middle. The next picture is with my other camera, and again, it's a perfect mirror. It's so unique. Like I've never been anywhere like this before.
Wow, the sky is gorgeous too.
It is, yeah.
Big sky.
We came near sunset as well, which is probably a good time. The next photo, again, just these are basically all the same. It's just a mirror, which is cool. And we stayed until the sun actually set. So this next photo, the sun is down, and I'm looking on the other side where people have driven. People drive on there because it's.
So you don't sink down.
You don't sink down, yeah.
Right. Okay.
So, well, I mean, you sink down a little bit, but.
Yeah, not enough to ruin a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a bit of a long exposure. You can see a town off in the distance there. I can't remember the name of that. But the next photo is kind of looking to the left of where the previous photo was, back at the highway. And the light that you see is actually from the moon. The moon is above the clouds there. Mm-hmm. And then the last photo was looking behind me, away from the moon, back at the mountains, which you saw previously in one of the previous photos. So I did a long exposure here. You can actually see more of the sand underneath the water now that it's dark. So I thought that was cool. I had a lot of fun there. So that was the last photo from that day. May 28th, we drove from Salt Lake City back to Vegas for game. I can't remember which one. But the first photo you see is the Adobe's head office in Salt Lake City.
Oh, okay.
And most of you probably have heard that Adobe before, but Adobe plays a big role in my life because right now I'm filming this podcast on Adobe Edition. Mm-hmm. I edit all the videos on an Adobe Premiere. I make all the thumbnails in Adobe Photoshop. I edit all of my photography in Adobe Lightroom. So I use Adobe programs literally every day of my life since 2004, on and off a couple of years.
Wow.
But there's no program there's no company that I've used besides Windows, I guess, Microsoft, but I'm loyal.
And you are. And you do it a monthly subscription now, right?
I do. Yeah, for Creative Cloud.
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
No. But look what you get.
Exactly.
Look what the viewers get.
Hopefully they're pleased. Production quality.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I saw this and I'm like, man, I'd love to work there someday. But anyway, so this next photo requires a backstory. This is in Vegas on the Strip. We were standing across the street from the T-Mobile Arena, or basically New York, in front of the Denny's, waiting to cross the road to go back towards the arena. There's a ton of people on the corner. I'm filming a guy dancing kind of in the street where there's no cars coming. He stepped out a little bit, he's dancing, and I hear behind me just this, just crack. I'm not going to make the sound because it's going to be too loud for the listeners, but everyone turns around, and this is what we see. I'm already filming at this point because I'm filming the guy in the street. So I turn around with my camera, and this is what I see. So I'm lucky in the fact that I already had my camera going and no one else did. Mm-hmm. So I'm the only person who got this. And I'm not exactly sure what happened, but Luke thinks that he heard someone, he thinks that he heard someone say that they heard that it was a bet, where the guy said, I bet you $20 you can't knock me out, or whatever. And the guy smoked him, knocked him out cold in one punch. He reached down, grabbed the money, and then took off running. I have that on video. I'm not going to show it, but this is a screenshot from the video of the guy standing over this guy, and it was crazy. And then I'm not going to show the rest of the photos because the guy on the ground actually bled quite a bit. He was eventually okay. He did get up, but I thought about going to the police with this, but I figured, number one, they've got cameras all over the place anyway, so they're already going to have video footage of this. Number two, they're so busy because of the game that's just about to start, and there's so many people. They probably really don't care about this, and it's Vegas, so this is pretty minor in their eyes. And three, I didn't have time. If I had have contacted the police, I would have had done a statement and given it would have taken probably an hour or so.
Oh, more than that.
So I would have missed it. I would have missed the game. So
it's all about the game.
Yeah. And if the story's true and the guy did bet him that he could knock him out, then it's his own damn fault. So, so the next photo is, I believe this is game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. And there's so many more people here than there was the previous round. It was just crazy. There was too many people, to be honest.
So I see from the overhead screen there, underneath where it says T-Mobile Arena, they're playing at this time. They're inside that building playing. Yeah,
you're correct. Yeah, they're inside.
Yeah, and you're outside. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. And then the next photo is at the end. I took a lot of video this day and not a lot of pictures, so that's why it skips right to the end. Anyways, Vegas won game 1, as you guys know. So there's the place is pretty hype after that. After that, we went back to the New York hotel just to walk around a little bit. So this is a really, really crappy photo, but it shows you more of what I was talking about in the previous podcast, where they have this kind of alleyway of shops in New York style, pizza and restaurants and all kinds of stuff. It's really cool. The next photo is outside. They had the Statue of Liberty outside the New York hotel, and they have a Vegas jersey on the Statue of Liberty. And I didn't get a photo of the front, unfortunately, but in the back it says Budweiser 17 or something. But they have this jersey. It's apparently it weighed like 800 pounds or something crazy. Pretty cool. And then the last photo is actually a picture of me and Benny. He was there, and we met up, got a picture. He's the one that won one of our contests, our Twitter contest.
Oh, yeah.
So he won the Toronto jersey
Sure.
like 6 or 7 months ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I met up with him and had a good conversation. So shout out to Benny.
Hey, Benny.
So that was it for that day. The 29th, I have no photos. I can't remember what I did that day. I think I just relaxed. The day after that, May 30th, was game 2. So the first photo that you see is I'm in the parking garage looking down.
Okay.
And so this is pre-game. This is probably 2 hours before the game starts. There's already that many people. So this is just a little panoramic. The next photo is of a screen inside a casino because it was so hot that we decided it's just not worth it to be out there in that crazy crowd in the heat. It was like 108 or 107 or something like that. It just wasn't worth it. So we went into the casino and watched the game.
So you've got a picture from inside a casino in Vegas.
Yeah, I snuck it.
You are one risky man.
I know, right?
Wow. Living on the edge.
So that was it for that day. The next day, I believe Luke left and I was all alone. So I went to the movie theater, and I wanted to take this picture and show you. You notice that the seats are leather. If you look at the next picture,
looks like a bunch of lazy boys.
Exactly, they were motorized.
What?
You motorized and laid like flat almost out on them.
Oh wow!
It was amazing. I almost fell asleep. So that day I just kind of relaxed, edited, watched a movie, took it easy. The next day, I went to, I met up with 2 subscribers, Rosie and her brother, Tony, I think his name was, and we went, I'm trying to think of the name of it. We went to basically Red Rock Canyon, and on the way there's this ranch, a very famous ranch.
Chicken ranch?
No, not a chicken ranch. It was not an estate, but it was owned by a lot of famous people. A very famous female actor back in like the 20s or something, and Howard Hughes.
Oh yeah.
Owned this for a while. So the first picture that you see is a collection of stuff that they've kept forever at the place. 7-Up, an old root beer can there, all kinds of stuff. The next photo I took specifically for you.
Oh, sweet.
So this is an old radio. And I don't know if you know the name of it or if you're familiar with it, but anyway, I did take this photo for you.
I'm zooming in big time here to see if I can find a manufacturer on it, but I don't see one right off. Oh, Lee Tech, it says at the top. I would say that's fairly new, but made to look old.
Oh.
Something like those Crosleys you see sometimes at Bed Bath & Beyond, but it's a beautiful job. Yeah, I think that's a reproduction.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, there's been a trade.
Oh, we have a trade to announce.
And it involves the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, really? Stand by.
The Montreal Canadiens have acquired goaltender Steve Mason and forward Joel Armia.
Armia? Really?
Okay, so the Canadiens acquire Joel Armia, goaltender Steve Mason, and a 7th round pick in 2019 and a 4th round pick in 2020 from the Winnipeg Jets in exchange for defenseman Simon Bork. I have no idea who that is. Do you?
I don't.
I have no. I don't. I'm confused. Who's Simon Bork? Or Burke?
Simon Burke. He's in the minors. He's a defenseman. He's on an entry-level contract. He's being paid $720,000 this year. Next year, he's an RFA. The year after that, he's 21 years old. He's left defense.
So this is a salary dump for Winnipeg.
Yeah.
So Montreal wins this trade. I don't. What's going on here? Like Steve Mason, Carey Price, Lindgren, and Niemi all signed.
Well, Niemi's signed until tomorrow.
No, he has a new contract.
He what?
Yes, they signed him to a new contract.
You're not kidding.
$1 million something.
You're kidding me.
Go look.
$950,000.
Yeah.
Son of a gun.
Which I'm happy about.
Oh yeah.
But they've got 4 goalies now. What's Steve Mason's contract?
They must be just going to use him to flip. I don't know.
I mean, I guess, but why wouldn't Winnipeg do that if that was the case? Anyways, interesting. And a trade from Montreal I actually like for once.
Mm-hmm.
I do like Joel Armia.
Armia.
Shout out to all our Finnish viewers for pronouncing that correctly.
Armia.
Armia. Okay, on with the show.
Cool.
So we left off at the radio, still at the estate. The next picture, this was looking out the window. So this, I mean, an unbelievable view. Just, can you imagine this being your home, looking out and seeing that? The beautiful trees, the long road with the white picket fence, and a mountain in the background.
I just picture Ben Cartwright and Haas clippity-clopping up the road saying, "Where's my baked beans there, Bertha?" It is beautiful.
It is.
Right out of the movies.
The first woman to own this, I can't remember her name. It wasn't like Audrey Hepburn or anything like that, but she was very famous, an actress. She used to collect gems and stuff from the mountain. She used to go find them and come back and polish them and tumble them and whatever gem people do. But her whole section was set up in the house where she did that. And the house had a secret room. Her bedroom is set up, and then you kind of go into her closet area. And there's closet doors, you open them, there's normal hangers and stuff in, but one of the doors you open and there's a hallway. So you walk through this like windy kind of turny hallway, and then you get to like a big bathroom, kind of like a 50s styles bathroom. Mm-hmm. It's a kind of a matte green or a coral green. And then to the right, there's this big open room. It's kind of like a sun porch or something like that. But I thought that was interesting. That's the first secret room I've ever been into. The next photo is we were at Red Rock Canyon at this point, and I had hiked down kind of along the bottom of the rock face. And you can see people in the photo in the middle hiking up there. And
okay, yeah, I see them now.
So it looked pretty risky to be honest. They didn't have any harnesses or anything like that, and they had a dog with them. It's like, man, that seems a little risky, but anyway. The next photo is back up the hill, looking more so towards Vegas area. Mm-hmm. And then the next photo is looking the other direction, and you can see the different coloration in the rock. That's why they obviously call it Red Rock Canyon. Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful spot. And just to give you the perspective of how big this is, if you look to the left, there's people at the bottom along that trail.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it really gives you a better perspective of how big that is once you see those people. Mm-hmm. It's cool. The next photo is just a panoramic a little bit down the road from there, looking kind of towards Death Valley area, I think maybe.
All right.
I think this is the direction I'm looking. And that's the last photo from that day. Moving on to June 2nd. This was Game 3 in Washington. So I went to the Vegas Golden Knights practice facility, and they have a restaurant there. And I went like 7 hours early to get a seat. So I kind of sat there, and I watched the game from there. And I thought it was interesting that they have banners from other teams in the practice facility.
Oilers and Kings, I see.
Yeah, and
Ducks.
there's more above my head that you can't
Flames.
see in the picture. Thought that was cool.
Cool.
And then I met up with a subscriber. We had a good conversation. Probably talked for like 20 minutes and got a picture together.
Cool.
I take terrible photos. And that was it for that day. And on the 3rd, there's no hockey going on. So I met back up with Rosie and Tony. And we went to Red Rock Casino.
Okay.
That's called. Very beautiful. Very, very beautiful. So the first photo was just kind of an entry point. I think there's doors behind me, below me. After that, we went bowling, and that was a lot of fun. I haven't been bowling in a long time, a very long time, so that was a lot of fun. After that, we went to play some pool. I haven't played pool in a long time, so that was fun. And then after that, I took a photo of all the cars that I rented, and I rented a Corolla.
Oh, okay.
Shout out to you because you have a Corolla.
What do you think of it?
I don't like it.
Yeah. So that's a brand new one, obviously 2018, I guess.
Nah, 2016.
2016.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks quite new. So was much difference from our 2014, or?
A little bit, but not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
June 4th. This was the watch party. Okay, so Game 4, they decided to have a watch party inside T-Mobile because it was so hot. Finally, they let people in. So the first photo you see has nothing to do with hockey. They have this thing called, Skippy Peanut Butter, obviously, that people know what that is. But they have this thing called Bites. And inside, there's different things you can get. One was like, not granola, but graham cracker. And then one's pretzel. And they're so good.
Really?
You're a big peanut guy. I thought you'd like this.
Well, I do. So peanuts, peanut butter, and great. But just don't ruin it with other things.
I love these. The pretzel ones were awesome. And I think the other one's like graham cracker cookies or something like that. If anyone wants to send me any for mail time, that'd be awesome. I'll send you back hockey cards. We can't get these in Canada. The next picture is me and Chris just standing in line. We were in line for 10 minutes trying to get in, and it was so hot, like it was sweat.
That's the day it was 114 Fahrenheit and plus 47 Celsius?
No, it was 108 at this point.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. 10 minutes, we were sweating. So anyways, we're in line here. And then we went inside, and this is the view and the seat that we had for the watch party.
Center ice. Wow.
A lot of people were going down below.
Yeah, absolutely not.
And I'm like,
get opposite the jumbo.
You're going to be watching the screen. You don't need to be down below. There's nothing going on in the ice.
They'll have neck disabilities from looking up.
So,
yeah.
I mean, this is the perfect seat.
Oh, yeah.
The absolute perfect seat. So, we nailed it. Shout out to Chris.
Oh.
Good God.
Wow, that was bad, wasn't it?
All right. June 5th. On June 5th, Chris and I hiked Mount Charleston. And so I don't have any photos prior to that, but I have a photo from the top. We made it to the top. And so this is the amazing view. If you look straight ahead into the valley in the distance, I think that's a town called Pahrump, which is on the other side of Death Valley.
Wow.
And to your left, you'll see a cloud, and I hope you can name that cloud.
It looks like a lenticular.
There you go.
Cloud.
Well done.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next photo is just a more zoomed in photo of the valley. And the next photo is of that cloud and the mountain and a little town below there. And that was basically it from that day. And I spent the majority of the last week doing a lot of editing of pictures and stuff. The following day, the 6th, there's only 2 photos here. I thought that you would find this interesting. Chris might laugh when he sees this. I was staying in his spare room, which had its own bathroom. And the bathroom had a shower where the head changed color.
What?
Green meant this is a good temperature. You can get in the shower now. The next photo is red, too hot.
Oh, my.
There's another color I didn't get a picture of, which was, I think, blue, maybe?
Probably blue would be cold.
Too cold.
Yeah.
So
that is crazy.
I thought that was really interesting. And this isn't the first place I saw it on my trip. This is like the 3rd place that I was at that had this. It's like, dang, that's awesome.
So is there electricity in the shower head?
Well, there's got to be.
Got to be.
Or maybe it runs on battery or something.
Well, I hope so. I hope it's not main power goes in there.
Yeah, it seems. I never thought of that.
I don't know if I'd be getting in a shower that had a light and where the water came from.
I was all about it. Okay, June 7th. This is the day I actually left, finally. And I just have a few flying photos here. I thought that you would find this interesting. I don't know exactly what I'm looking at here, where this is.
So you've taken off from Las Vegas en route Toronto?
I think this is Utah, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, somewhere.
Looks like you're already at altitude by there, so that's probably, what, an hour into the flight?
I think this is Colorado. No, this isn't an hour, and this is about maybe half an hour. I don't think this is Colorado. There's no way this is Colorado.
Okay, you're probably...
I think it's...
You could be along the border between Nevada... No, Arizona and Utah, maybe.
Yeah. So you see the two photos there of awesome landscape. The next photo will be a familiar one to you, because this is the view that you see when you fly from Halifax to Charlottetown in the Beechcraft 1900. Yeah. So there's no door to the cockpit, and you can see what the pilots are doing. It's kind of awesome.
They have a door, and only some of them use it. They actually slide shut like a closet door, but most of them don't use it. So I don't recognize that pilot, but I know a few that fly that route. That's pretty cool. Looks like you were in seat 2A.
I was in 2A. Yeah, well done. The next image is basically the first picture I got of Prince Edward Island, or a piece of Prince Edward Island, as I'm coming back through the clouds, and it's like, oh, home. So the difference in the first picture, which is desert below, to this, which is so green, there's water, clouds. And then the final photo is basically one of the first things I did when I got home is go to the beach and chill at the beach, because I had not seen water in 3.5 weeks or whatever. So
you haven't seen water that was more than 2 inches deep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was my entire trip, and I'll have more vlogs coming out on More Post to Post. If you could go subscribe there and see those, that would be awesome. There's already, I think, 3 or 4 up. So I appreciate your guys' patience in me going through that. I know it was a little clumsy, and I'm not really good at telling stories or explaining things, but I appreciate your willing to listen and go through that with me. So we transition now to your trip, because you took a trip to Ohio.
I did.
And you drove from here. And you have 3 folders to look through.
I do, and they're fairly quick. I don't want to put people through torture. I don't have copies on my laptop because my thumb drive is in yours. So the trip was quick. I left here on a Monday evening after work, and I drove as far as Fredericton. And once I did that, I stayed that night in Fredericton. And then the next morning, my cousin Glenn and I hopped in and headed for the United States of America, and had a great trip.
It's a long drive, and
Is it ever?
You powered through it, specifically on the way back, I think. But it's
even down there, we didn't waste a whole lot of time. We went pretty well straight out. We stopped only for fuel, grab a little bite to eat once in a while, and that was it. Otherwise, we just...
You didn't do any sightseeing?
No.
It's all about the business.
No sightseeing. My thumb drive's not coming up here, so...
all right, well, I can just...
Yeah, I'll see your screen, and we'll just go from there.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play the videos that you have in here.
Okay.
Because... Unless they're... Do you want me to play the videos?
Well, you can play them in the background while we talk, I suppose. If you do, great. If not, that's fine too. But the video from this first day is basically just a fairly quick clip of us driving along Interstate 81 through Connecticut. And we went into a heavy thunderstorm and tornado warning area.
Ooh.
And we had tornadoes around us. I never saw any, but how could you see any tornadoes with visibility like...
But there was touchdowns?
There were touchdowns.
Ooh.
There were touchdowns, and there were places where probably wasn't tornadic winds, but straight line winds got involved, and the roads were closed in places, or at least temporarily closed. We just had some vicious winds that took trees down. One of them put the tree right across the interstate. I think I have a photo of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where the tree's down right across I-81.
Oh, yeah, wow.
And it covers the entire right-hand lane. And as you can see from the photo, there's no police car, there's no service, there's nothing going on there. So you would just be bombing along the interstate at 70, 75 miles an hour around a corner, and one lane is gone because there's this big tree in front of it.
That's kind of amazing, actually.
Yeah, so we had to come to a complete stop several times, and for times not too far out of Newburgh, New York, on the New York State Thruway, Interstate 90, we got caught in traffic for literally 2 hours, just sitting there for 2 hours while there's while a woods crew up ahead was chopping up trees off the highway and loading them onto a truck. And then,
Jeez, eh?
Yeah, it was just crazy. It was crazy. Well, we got into Newburgh that evening, and that was our intended destination for leg one of our trip. We got to Newburgh, and most of the power was gone in the entire city. And this is just across the Hudson. So we crossed the Hudson into Newburgh. The power was out, except for a few places. So we just pushed on. We said, "Frig it, we won't try to find a hotel here. There's no electricity." So we kept on driving. We got all the way to Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
The headquarters of Dunder Mifflin.
That's right.
And anyway, we found a spot. We had a coupon in one of these travel books. I just walked into this chain hotel and said, "Do you have any coupon rate rooms left?" "Yes, sir." So for pretty cheap, we got in there that night and had a good rest. It was a long day, frustrating day driving. And then the next morning we left Scranton and drove all the way into Ohio from there. And Pennsylvania is a very big state, especially for the east. Compared to Texas and Wyoming, it's
right.
A little more average size. But in the east, it's about as big as it gets. And there's a little piece of Pennsylvania that touches Lake Erie. So if you've ever driven from, let's say, Buffalo to Cleveland, you've been in you go through Pennsylvania in half an hour. Oh, Pennsylvania's not very big. But if you go from Scranton...
So Philadelphia touches the Atlantic Ocean.
Pretty well.
And the other end
Delaware River, yeah.
Pennsylvania touches the Lake Erie?
Well, the top, Pennsylvania has a little sliver that goes up to the top that touches Lake Erie, but it's only maybe 20 or 30 miles wide.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's got Ohio on one side, New York State on the other side, right up at Lake Erie. But down below, where you're driving along the entire length of Pennsylvania where it's big,
right.
You can go from Philadelphia all the way across the state of Pennsylvania till you get to the other side, to the Ohio border. And down there, it's hours and hours and hours long. Through the mountains, it's absolutely gorgeous, through the Pocono Mountains.
Ooh.
It's beautiful. Yeah. So we drove that all the way through on day one. Didn't take a lot of pictures. It was not a picture-taking kind of day. The visibility, as you can see in the rain, was terrible. And then a lot of our drive was done after dark because we didn't intend to drive at night, but we ended up having to.
Yeah.
So the next day we drove into Ohio, and it was just a driving day. We didn't really stop anywhere. Saw some nice scenery. Traffic for the most part was quite good, especially considering this is mostly rural Pennsylvania, so it wasn't big cities. But when we got into Ohio, we were south of the lake, so we didn't go through Cleveland. We were south of Cleveland. We were a bit north of Columbus. We kind of shot in between there, and ended up in a place called Lima, Ohio that night, and stayed the night in Lima, which is about an hour north of Dayton. We stayed in Lima because the next morning we wanted to go to a place called Fair Radio, which is located in Lima, and Fair Radio Sales is a place that has all kinds of old radios that would be in the previous folder, I think.
The previous folder?
Yeah, the one that says Air Force.
Okay.
Sorry. And so you can see some really old vintage gadgets and and radios. We didn't buy anything there. We just wanted to look around, but it was quite a spot. There's just eons and eons of radios. Go ahead.
So can I go through these one at a time and you can
Sure.
talk about them?
Absolutely.
Are you done with the radio thing? Or
we're still in the radio thing, but keep going, yeah. But the trip was actually two things in one day. The other thing we did was the United States Air Force Museum. So these pictures will be a mixture of mostly the Air Force Museum, a lot of planes, and things like that. So it was a tremendous trip. But if you want to slide through.
Okay, so there's other photos in here from the other place.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's fine. We'll see some of the stuff. This is looking along the fuselage of Air Force One, as it was from 1962 until 1972. In 1962, when Kennedy was president, the United States acquired 2 aircraft. This is the first one, tail number 26000, and this was routinely called Air Force One. That was its call sign when the president was on board. So this is the aircraft that John Kennedy used, Lyndon Johnson used, and Richard Nixon used for much of their presidencies.
That's awesome.
This is the plane that took Richard Nixon to China. This is the plane that flew John F. Kennedy to Dallas in November of 1963, and it's the plane that flew his body home.
Is it a 767?
It's a Boeing 707.
707.
Yeah. 4 engines. It's a long, fairly vintage airplane. And when you go through these photos, you'll see, like the cockpit photo, for instance, you don't see a lot of electronic fancy gadgetry on there.
You're right, yeah.
These are what we pilots call steam gauges, although they didn't really run on steam. And it's pretty much the way it was when, pardon me for that little tinkle, it was pretty much the way it was when the plane was taken out of presidential service in 1972-73. And it still flew after that, just doing other things, and then it finally retired and ended up here at the museum.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's quite a place. The communications area was just a little bit behind the cockpit. This is what the communicators would use to keep the president or whatever other occupants in touch with the rest of the world when the plane was in flight. Because when you're in there, this is back in the days of no internet, you used high-frequency and very high-frequency radios to stay in touch with the ground.
Who needs this many buttons?
Oh,
there's so many buttons here.
Isn't it the greatest thing?
I don't understand.
It's amazing. It's beautiful.
There's you can't do that many things that require that many buttons. It's not possible.
Well,
all right.
This is the executive seating area, so this is where dignitaries, sometimes maybe the president himself, would sit and interview folks or be interviewed and talk to folks. You can see the phone there between the 2 seats on the far
and then
right-hand side.
2 phones down to the left of the table.
One of them is probably the bat phone.
Yeah.
I don't know. But different presidents had the plane reconfigured a little, so the entire plane is not exactly in the format it was when Kennedy was president.
Okay.
If Nixon wanted something installed, he got something installed and so forth, so the plane changed a bit. This is an interesting photo here, and I tried to find a way to tell this story visually, but you'll see 2 panels, one above and one below, and there's an aluminum border around these panels. That used to be one panel. When the President Kennedy was shot on November 22nd, 1963 in Dallas, Jackie Kennedy, his widow, insisted that the casket ride in the cabin of the aircraft rather than in the cargo hold. So at the last minute, the Secret Service and others had to find a way to get the coffin in the plane. So this is near the back door of the airplane. They took that bulkhead and cut it in 2 and removed the bottom part to allow the casket to get in and turned and settled along the window seats. They took 2 rows of seats out on the left-hand side.
Wow.
And that's where the casket stayed. And when the casket was removed from the aircraft in Washington, once it landed at Andrews Air Force Base, they took the casket back out the back door, and then afterward they rebuilt that panel. They left the cut line there, but they just covered it with aluminum flashing, and it's still there to this day.
Wow, that's interesting.
And there's a little sign telling the same story. I tried to get up close so you wouldn't have the glass in the way, but
gives a better perspective of
or where the casket would have sat once they got it inside. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another shot of the plane. You can see the tail number 26000.
That's awesome.
It is tremendous. It's a fantastic sight.
It's amazing how far away the first engine is from the actual fuselage of the plane.
Really?
Like you know that those wings are insanely large.
Mm-hmm. There's another angle from the back door.
So, question unrelated to your trip. What's this antenna thing coming out of the top of the tail?
I'm not sure what the purpose is, but all Boeing 707s and KC-135 tankers have that needle coming out the front.
I've seen it. I've seen it before.
That's the easiest way, in fact, to distinguish. Back when I was doing plane spotting as a kid, Boeing 707s and Douglas DC-8s looked very similar from a distance. And the best way to tell them apart was the 707 had that needle in the tail. I don't know if it's an antenna or a pitot or some other device. I've never actually looked it up on the internet to see what it was, but it had a purpose, I guess.
The pitot, does that measure airspeed?
Yes, it does.
Right.
Yeah. Very good.
Thank you.
Probably the pitot that they would use in the cockpit is on the wing, but that one in the tail might have some other function.
Didn't they have one on the nose, right underneath the nose that kind of come down?
Some planes do, yes.
Wow, those things are huge.
It is. And this is a picture taken from another plane that was right beside it, facing in the opposite direction. This is the plane that carried, the plane I'm taking this from, carried President Eisenhower in the 1950s. And it was called Columbine 3. And I think it was called, Eisenhower had Columbine, I believe. So there's a few pictures in the museum of these other aircraft as well. Quite a plane.
The size of the engine, the length of it compared to the ones now, is just that just looks that looks silly, doesn't it?
Maybe so.
All right, next up.
Apollo 15 is the capsule. That was the command module. It went all the way to the moon and back. 3 astronauts lifted off. One stayed behind in the capsule, orbiting the moon, while the other 2 went down in the lunar module. And then eventually blasted off of the moon, reconnected with the command module. Then the lunar module was ejected and crashed into the moon to do seismic research, and the 3 came back in that, and that is the real deal right there.
Awesome.
That's the one they used.
That is cool.
Is it ever?
Ooh.
That is a B-52. You know that big long engine you just saw in the 707? Well, picture a plane having 8 of those in 4 pods of 2. And that's really the same size engine on this aircraft. The B-52 was designed in the 1940s, flown through from the 1950s to the present day. They're still using them.
Are you serious?
They're still using them, absolutely.
Really?
B-52s, and it's a long-range bomber, as you can probably appreciate.
It's the biggest bomber they've ever...
Yes.
It's
unbelievable.
I mean, like the Galaxy is huge.
It's huge,
but
and it carries more weight.
The wingspan of this is stupid.
Yeah. And to see them in the air, I saw them in the air many times when I was younger. In fact, they flew over New Brunswick very frequently because there were B-52s based, or at least operating, out of Loring Air Force Base in Presque Isle, Maine. And Presque Isle, Maine is so close to the Canadian border that the zone around the airport for doing maneuvers, for the circuit and all of that, actually went over Canadian territory. So if you're driving north from, let's say, Perth Andover, New Brunswick, up towards Edmundston along the Trans-Canada Highway, you would frequently see B-52s flying overhead, fairly low too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I took this because I'm a pilot and a geek.
Oh, it's a beacon.
Yeah, back in the days before they had a lot of radio navigation or GPS, they used things as simple as lights to navigate by at night.
It's like a lighthouse for planes.
Exactly. Very good. This is an interesting thing. In Canada, we have a plane called a C-130, which we call a Hercules, and there's a few other variants of it. In the States, they also use that, but here's one particular design of it that was made to catch satellites.
What?
Yeah. Satellites, what they would do in the 1960s is the Americans would launch a satellite that just had a camera in it, and it would take pictures of Russia and China, I suppose, and Cuba, who knows where else. And then the camera and the film would be ejected from the satellite and fall back to Earth with a parachute, and this plane would fly through the air and catch it in the air.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Wow.
And those are antennas actually just to track the satellite on its way down. That's not the catching mechanism in the front. Those are antennas.
I thought that was the catching mechanism. I was like, what? You have to fly into the parachute and, anyway.
Yeah. And some of these are just general pictures from inside the United States Air Force Museum. So there's planes hanging from the ceiling. And
is that an Avenger?
I can't really tell from my angle here. I don't think it is. That looks Japanese, actually. Maybe not. I just had to take a picture of anyone named Taylor.
I guess.
He's the first aircraft mechanic. He worked for the Wright brothers. This is earlier that same day outside of Fair Radio sales. So there's my car, the VY2HF Mobile. It was parked in front of Fair Radio, which is kind of like a mecca. A lot of hams have to go to Fair Radio at least once in their lives just to see all the stuff inside. So
it's the Disney. Is it kind of like Disney World?
Well,
for ham radio operators?
Maybe more like Route 66.
Okay.
A little old. And there's just some of the stuff inside. There's Glenn looking at what is...
That's a lot of radios.
That's a lot of radios, and that's a tiny sample of what's in there. Most of it's old. Fair Radio does not sell.
It's pretty old.
Yeah, if it's anything newer than about 40 years old, they probably don't want it.
Did you end up selling your big one, by the way?
I did not. Glenn's actually working on it.
he's
We were there to get some parts for it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That looks like a Galaxy or a...
It's a Galaxy or a Starlifter or one of them. It is a huge airplane, and they were doing flights over top, demonstration flights over top of the museum that day.
Oh, I guess it's a video.
Yeah, this is actually at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. The museum takes off a corner of that base, and 2 planes were flying overhead that day. One was this one, which is a massive cargo plane. The other was what some people would call Air Force 2, which was the other Boeing 707 that was designed very similar to the one that we just toured inside there. Mm-hmm. And it was doing overflights as well, although my telephone, or my camera, I guess I was using at the time, was zoomed in too far and it was blurry. But this one here, it's massive. And this plane is flying at probably 130, 140 knots, but it looks like it's going really slow just because it's so big.
Exactly.
It's just huge, and it was quite a sight.
Can you explain the difference to the viewers between flaps and slats?
I can, but it's not nothing that would make sense.
You think it's interesting?
Yeah, it's not my thing.
All right.
But, slats are really spoilers that help the plane fly slower, but they don't really generate lift. They just spoil the air. They redirect the air around the wing, whereas flaps actually shoot air down from underneath the wing to add extra lift to the plane while it's in slow flight.
There you go. That's all I needed.
Okay.
I just you come here to learn something new every time you're in a video, and I just need to make sure that someone learns something new.
There we go. This plane is called a Goblin. It was dropped out, the design of it, you would drop it out of a bomber, like a bomb, but there'd be a dude in it, and he would fly around your plane and fight off attackers. And then he would fly back up and get caught inside and hoisted back up into the plane and go have a burger or whatever and then wait for the next time.
This is freaky.
It is freaky. It didn't work either.
I was going to say, I don't...
Yeah. They would drop the Goblin. It flew okay, but they never successfully reconnected with the bomber. It always had to land on the ground.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, so they tossed that idea. But it was kind of fun.
Oh, well.
Fun to play with, I guess.
Ooh, a Spitfire? Or a Hurricane? On the bottom?
That's a Hurricane on the bottom, yeah.
Interesting.
And that's a Tiger Moth on the top.
Mm.
Your grandfather flew both of those planes.
Ooh.
Or both of those types, not those exact planes. Yeah. And that is the one that Eisenhower used when he was president.
Shiny.
So, yeah, very shiny. Yeah, spick and span. You could go up inside both of these planes and walk through them.
That's cool.
Yeah, very cool. And that's just a closer shot of the steps going up to it.
This is the Columbine.
Yeah, Columbine. Columbine 3. This is the Memphis Belle.
Ooh.
The day we were there, interestingly, it was accidental. That's the day we were going to be there, period. Mm-hmm. The day we were there is the day that exhibit opened. So this is the first day of the displaying of the Memphis Belle.
Wow.
That is the real Memphis Belle airplane that was in the subject of the movie and flew over Europe, 25 missions in World War II, safely returned home and then back to the States.
That is amazing.
It is incredible.
Very cool.
That is the real plane right there.
You can see the paintings on the side there. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming they're keeping track of
their missions.
Of some stuff there on the side.
They are, yeah.
That's cool.
Another angle from the Memphis Belle.
Awesome.
It's a beautiful plane, and it was really well presented too. Yeah.
Ooh.
Further back, as you go back towards the presidential area, there is a space gallery, and these are just some of the missiles that have been used, or at least ready to be used, by the United States in the event of nuclear war. And these sat in silos, mostly in the Midwest, places like Nebraska and Montana. There's all kinds of spots where there's missile silos, and these missiles are inside, ready to go. And these are just a sample of some of the kind of missiles they had.
That's cool.
There's back in Fair Radio. This is a Collins-designed R390A-URR receiver used by the American military from the 1950s into the early 1970s, and it is considered to be one of the best radios ever made, period. And I have one.
So if you wanted something that did the exact same thing as this, but with today's technology, how big would it be?
I could put it in the palm of my hand.
Amazing, eh?
Yeah, I actually have 2 of them. They're called software-designed radios, and they're about the size of a package of cigarettes or something similar, and you plug them into your computer, and away you go.
That's amazing.
It's incredible.
Can you imagine if you took today's radio, went back in time, and showed someone back then?
Man. They wouldn't know what to do. That thing there weighs 85 pounds. It's about...
I remember carrying it up, help you carry it upstairs.
Yeah, it's over 40 kilos. Yeah. There's the most important member of the crew in the Memphis Belle. Because he's the radio.
Oh, you're right. I was trying to read his title underneath there.
No, he's radio guy. I thought initially that was a Spitfire, but I think it's a P-40 Warhawk, someone said. So.
Oh.
Yeah. But it looks like a Spitfire to me. But
they've, yeah.
The Americans did fly some Spitfires with American paint on them, but there's some... I've been trying to find out the exact identity of that plane. I actually still think it might be a Spitfire, but someone tells me it's not, so...
Yeah. Ooh.
Now, the lighting on this one is so poor.
I already know what it is.
Yeah.
That's our 71 Blackbird.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's meant to be in the dark.
That's right. I think that's on purpose.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, quite a plane.
Amazing that you got to see that in person.
Mm-hmm. Really. That's the second one I've seen.
What, really?
There's one on the Intrepid in New York.
Oh, you jerk. All right, what's this?
That's inside the Columbine 3 airplane. That is a shortwave receiver, because when it flew in the 50s, that's as good as it got. Remember that room with all the buttons?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the 1970s version. This is the 1950s version.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
Yeah. And this is what Harry Truman flew. We're going back even farther in time. This is the Independence, which is the plane he flew in the early 1950s, late 1940s, before Eisenhower became president in 1953. Yeah.
So does each president get to choose whatever plane they want?
I think generally, yes.
Does Trump fly his own plane?
No. Air Force One was replaced by, it was that Boeing 707 style until the 1990s. And I think around the 1980s, it would be about 1985 or so when they switched to a large Boeing 747. And that's what it's been ever since.
Okay.
Maybe different versions of it, but it's always been a big 747 since then, yeah. That's a replica of the first airplane flown, at least in North America, the Wright Flyer.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, pretty scary.
That's it for
that day. So what we did was we spent, the Dayton Hamvention takes place on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So all the pictures that we just talked about were taken on a Thursday because the thing hadn't really started at that point.
Okay.
So Thursday night we went to an event, an unofficial event at a local restaurant. And then on Friday morning we went to the actual Hamvention and spent all day Friday and all day Saturday at the ham radio event that we were there for. So
was it fun?
It was fantastic fun. Yeah, it was great fun. Outside one of the buildings, the main buildings, the Amateur Satellite Corporation of the United States, what we call AMSAT, had a demonstration out front, or out back, I guess, with a little tent and a tripod with an antenna on it that was remote controlled, and they were operating on satellites right from there. And the two guys that were running the demonstration, Paul, N8HM, and Tucker, W4FS, are two guys that I know, and I've talked to them on the air many times.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so they were there, got to meet them and say hi. Yeah, Tucker just sent me a message on Twitter last night about something. It was kind of cool.
Oh, nice.
And AMSAT has its own meeting that happens at Dayton every year. This was the AMSAT meeting inside, so we got in so late that we didn't get a seat, so we're sitting up against the wall over to one side.
Yeah.
And there's me. That's one of my favorite pictures, and always will be. This is me with Doug Wheelock. Doug is an astronaut working for NASA, and Doug was in space in the International Space Station in 2010, and I talked to Doug a couple of times when he was up in space,
Nice.
And I was home here. And he was doing a talk. He's also a ham, and he was doing a talk at the Hamvention. And I watched his broadcast, and then it was over with. He had some autographed pictures to hand out, so he's signing the picture there in front of him. He made a nice personal message to me. I've got the picture framed, and now it's sitting at my office, hanging on the wall there. But got a really nice conversation with Doug. He's a fantastic guy, really nice man.
Did he send you a QSL card after you get home?
No, I didn't get a card from him. The QSLing is not done by the astronauts themselves. There's another organization that does it. And I probably did get a card from the organization, but it would not have been from Doug anyway. So.
Right.
Yeah, and there's Doug doing his broadcast just before I got to meet him.
It's a cool sign.
Yeah,
in front of the laptop.
You can buy signs like that down there, and it's a miracle I didn't come home with a whole car full of stuff like that. It's crazy.
Oh, this is a video.
This is a video, and this is just a a little walk through the flea market outside, because not only is it the Hamvention, a bunch of buildings that are totally occupied by dealers and commercial vendors. Outside, in the center of the racetrack area, is a flea market. So people drive up, they rent spaces. Unfortunately, the day was a little dreary, the day that we were out there, but you could just see the extent of some of the things for sale with these little tents and tarp-covered tables. It's pretty cool. Excuse me. Yeah, it was quite the place. So the flea market is a big part of what happens at Dayton.
So you just walk around and look at stuff.
Yeah, just walk around and look at stuff.
All right.
Yeah. We also went to some talks and demonstrations. This is the another podcast group, actually. They do what we do. They podcast about amateur radio. They also do videos. And this is their presentation. They had one of the rooms booked, and all the fans, the fan base, I'm one of them, we went and sat and watched these guys do their thing and have some talks, and it was great.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Inside one of the buildings, the ICOM company had draws a couple of times a day, but you had to be present to win.
Okay.
So you can see this huge crowd waiting for their name to be drawn, and they were giving away some really cool stuff.
Did you win?
No.
Darn.
Yeah, didn't win. This is back at the satellite demonstration outside. There's Tucker sitting down, getting ready to work the satellites, and he's got a couple of laptops on the go. One of them's controlling the antenna turning, and the other's controlling the radio tuning. And there's quite a crowd has gathered around the outside to watch the proceedings, and they had some good contacts from there, so it worked out really well.
Awesome.
Yeah. And just, of course, outside, there's everyone showing off their stuff. There's a pretty cool tower with a spidery-looking antenna on the top.
So do they bring this?
Yeah, they bring that, and they put it up for 3 days, and then they take it away.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
It's a crank-up tower. If you can tell, each section, you can see how it fits inside the section above. So there's a motor, a great big motor at the bottom, and they just put the power to that motor, and away it goes, and it pushes itself up.
Sounds expensive.
It is a little pricey, yeah. There's Tucker working on the laptops, getting ready for the pass. Inside, it's just buildings and buildings. This is a video. Buildings and buildings like this, that just constant flow of people walking, people on their little scooters. They're everywhere. You'll see a lot of scooters running around in Hamvention. Ham radio is one of those great hobbies that people that of any kind of ability can all do together. There are people in the ham radio hobby who are completely blind. There are people who are quadriplegics, paraplegics, and there are, of course, our able-bodied folk who are walking around and talking to old buddies that they've talked to on the air. A lot of people have signs or big hats with their names on them, because in the course of being on the radio for, in my case, 35 plus years, you end up talking to people, but you never know what they look like. You might walk past someone who's really a buddy on the air for many, many years and not know that was them. So
that's true.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, so there's a little more of a propensity among ham radio operators to put their call sign on their hat or their name on their hat just so you can recognize people.
I'm noticing one distinctive thing about majority of what I'm seeing, and that is the age of most of these people.
Yeah.
So it's I wouldn't say it's an old man's hobby, but it's an aging hobby. There's not as many young people as there are older people.
Not quite as many, but I was surprised with the amount of young people I did see, and I did see quite a few. There were some young folk that were around, and but you're right. It's a hobby that was really big until probably sometime in the late 70s, early 80s, and then the new intake started to drop off. But there's still enough people joining the hobby to replace those that are leaving or that have passed away. So in the States, there are about 1 million ham radio operators, just under 1 million. In Canada, there are 100,000 or so, or close to it. So there's a lot of us, and we're going to be around for a while.
Now, I'm going to throw out a selfish plug for you. We did a radio video on your YouTube channel, which majority of people probably don't even know about. You have a YouTube channel.
I do.
You have got lots of videos on there.
Yeah. And
one of the videos is a radio video that we did last summer. And if you can comment on this video with your YouTube channel, I will pin it so people can see your channel, click on your channel, and subscribe, because we're planning some other radio videos coming up. So.
Oh, thank you. You did a great job on the camera work and especially on the production of it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. The radio video we did was essentially me making some satellite contacts. And starts off just me talking from down by the waterfront, not too far from where we live here, and waving my crazy-looking antenna into the air and talking to a few guys in the satellite, and then coming back into the room, showing people where the satellite was when we were using it, and how everything all fit together. And I'm amazed, but that video, I don't know, I haven't looked lately, but it's close to like 10,000 views or something. It's crazy. And I continue to get new subscribers, and I haven't provided new content lately, and I feel bad about that.
Well,
so we need to fix that.
The reason I mentioned your channel is because I have another question. Did you buy anything there that you brought home with you?
Heck yeah.
So you have
you
have tools to make new content.
I do.
Okay.
I do. I've had great fun. I bought a new radio on that trip. I didn't buy it actually right at Dayton in Ohio because they have sales tax there, and I knew I was driving through New Hampshire again on the way home at a branch of the same store, Ham Radio Outlet, where they do not charge sales tax because they don't charge any in New Hampshire. So I saved about $70 US by waiting to buy it the next day.
That's
excuse me,
almost 2 tanks of gas.
There you go, down there.
So,
sure is. So I bought it on the way home. I hooked it up when I got home. I'm absolutely in love with it. It's an ICOM IC 7300, if you must know.
I must know. I'm glad you mentioned that.
It's a beautiful radio. It's the first new radio I've had in about 25 years.
Wow.
First, yeah. It replaced a radio that I just recently sold this spring that I bought, also brand new, in the late 1980s.
Dang.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. It's good that you're able to upgrade and do new things. So.
Yeah.
That's pretty much wraps up this podcast. So thank you guys for listening. If you are listening, I kind of feel bad because this is more of a viewers podcast, and hopefully you are watching. If you are listening, hopefully you get a chance to go watch as well. But if you could like this video on YouTube, that would be awesome. Leave us a review on iTunes. Subscribe if you're new. And leave any questions down below in the comment section about my trip, his trip, hockey, anything. We read all the we read all the comments, and we love hearing your feedback. So let us know what you think. And thank you for joining me. And
thank you for having me.
Sharing your story. Appreciate that.
Back to having a yak next week.
Back to having a knack. Having a yak
next week.
Having a yak next week on more Post to Post. So make sure you tune in for that on that channel. So thanks, guys, for listening or watching. I really appreciate it. Hope you're having a good day, and we'll catch you next time. Adios.